We begin with the president reacting to the sentencing of the man who once ran his presidential campaign. Mr. Trump expressed sympathy for Paul Manafort this morning while speaking to reporters outside the White House.
I feel very badly for Paul Manafort. I think it's been a very, very tough time for him. But if you notice, both his lawyer, a highly respected man, and a very highly respected judge, the judge said there was no collusion with Russia. This had nothing to do with collusion. There was no collusion. It's a collusion hoax. It's a collusion witch hoax. I don't collude with Russia.
The special counsel had recommended 19 to 24 years, but the former Trump campaign chairman got a fraction of that. In court, Manafort said that he was ashamed but never expressed remorse. So to recap, Manafort was found guilty on 5 counts of tax fraud, 2 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of failing to disclose a foreign bank account. Well, the judge overseeing the case, T.S. Ellis, called the charges against Manafort, quote, undeniably serious, but recommended the sentence excessive. Judge Elias also added that Manafort, quote, lived an otherwise blameless life and has engaged in lots of good things. For more, I want to bring in CBS News Washington correspondent Paula Reid, and on set here, Rebecca Roiphe. Rebecca is a CBSN legal contributor and former assistant district attorney in New York. Rebecca, I want to start with you. So many people are saying the sentencing is just far too lenient. Do you agree?
Well, I mean, first of all, 4 years in jail is a long period of time, and especially for Paul Manafort, who's not a young man. So I think we should start with that. I think the thing that makes people think this is a low sentence is how significantly lower it is from the sentencing guidelines. So this judge departed significantly from what was deemed the appropriate guidelines range for this particular crime. So in that way, that is a stunning departure that marks, you know, an exercise of discretion that's noteworthy.
You know, a lot of people look at this and say, why do sometimes white-collar criminals get so much less? I don't know if that's a correct way of putting it, but is there a discrepancy in the law?
Well, you know, we have a system that has guidelines. So they're essentially an area in which that are suggested sentence. But our system also leaves a significant amount of discretion for judges. I think that system is a good system, but the discretion leaves a lot of possibility for bias. And I think the more attention that gets placed on that, the better. Because if there is disparate treatment between wealthy, white defendants and people of color who are indigent and from less well-off backgrounds, then that's extremely troubling and something that we really need to redress.
Paula, I want to ask you, can Mueller appeal this sentence, and what would he have to consider before deciding to do so?
It's unlikely that they will seek to appeal, because then they're basically going to have to attack the judge and his reasoning. They're going to have to get into a lot of the political comments that he has made about this sentencing. At this point, there's no indication the special counsel will appeal.
Paula, I want to play for you a brief comment from Paul Manafort's attorney last night after the sentencing.
There is absolutely no evidence that Paul Manafort was involved with any collusion with any government official from Russia.
And we know today, Paul, the president seized on that, trying to make the case that this shows there was no collusion. Is his team trying to angle for a pardon here? And do you think the president would consider it?
Well, let's take what the lawyer said. He said there's no evidence that Paul Manafort colluded with Russian government officials. Well, no, there isn't. Nobody said there was. The question in terms of conspiracy for Paul Manafort is the fact that during the campaign, he had a meeting with a longtime Russian business associate, Konstantin Kilimnik, who had known ties to Russian intelligence. And during that meeting, according to the special counsel's investigation, he passed along polling data from the Trump campaign. And the question is, why was this person interested in polling data, and what was done with it? Because some experts have suggested to us that polling data is exactly the kind of information that Russian intelligence could use if they were trying to pursue a disinformation campaign. So to listen very carefully to what it is his lawyer was denying here. This case had nothing to do with conspiracy or collusion, but there is evidence that has been uncovered that raises some questions. Now, after each day of the trial, that lawyer, Kevin Downing, he would address the microphones, usually say 1 or 2 lines, and it was clear that, yes, Rena, he is angling for a pardon. He was playing to an audience of one with these comments, just like he did throughout the trial.
Okay, Rebecca, you know, Paul Manafort's legal woes aren't over yet. He's going to face Judge Amy Jackson Berman next week in court over conspiracy charges. She's been tougher on him. Do we expect that to be the case?
Yeah, she's been tougher generally on defendants. She's had a number of defendants in the Mueller probe particularly. She hasn't done what Judge Ellis did here, which is to sort of treat some kinds of crimes as less bad because they're not collusion. This judge views these kinds of crimes as serious, and she treats them seriously. That said, I think she's fair. I think most people think she's fair. I don't think she's particularly, politically motivated or after these defendants. I think she's got her eye on what happened, on who this is and what he's done in a way that, I think that she'll end up being fair.
Paul, I want to move on to Michael Cohen. The president today said his former attorney asked him for a pardon directly. I want to play that for you.
I know that in watching and seeing you folks at night that Michael Cohen lied about the pardon. It's a stone-cold lie, and he's lied about a lot of things, but when he lied about the pardon, that was really a lie, and he knew all about pardons. His lawyers said that they went to my lawyers and asked for pardons, and I could go a step above that, but I won't go do it now.
And Michael Cohen responded by calling this a lie. But would this seem to refute what Cohen actually told Congress earlier?
Well, that's right. The president did go a step further on Twitter a short time after he spoke with us there at the White House. He said that Cohen went directly to him and asked for a pardon. And that undercuts Cohen's testimony to Congress. During his testimony, Cohen said that he had never asked for a pardon, nor would he want one. But now his attorneys have even acknowledged and said, well, his previous legal team did pursue the option. The issue here was sort of getting to the truth is that you're dealing with Michael Cohen, his attorney Lanny Davis, and the president, all of whom have a history of making false statements. But right here, it appears there is a legitimate question about whether or not Cohen may have perjured himself during this testimony by saying he never sought a pardon when even his current attorneys say that is the case.
And Rebecca, would there be anything improper if Cohen were to seek out some sort of a pardon from the president?
Well, yes, I think so. Pardons are meant to be used as a way to recognize mercy or that there's been overreach in the criminal justice system, and not for this. So I think that a president can use powers that are legitimately given to him for illegitimate ends, and this would be an illegitimate end.
Paul, before we go, I want to ask you sort of on a separate matter of some breaking news out of the White House. We understand White House Communication Director Bill Shine has resigned. What more do we know about this?
That's right, Rena, and I don't know if you can hear, we have a little bit of drilling going on here in the Bureau. We're under a little bit of construction. So Bill Shine was out there with us this morning when we were asking the president questions at the White House during his departure. He was doing everything he normally does, listening very intently to the president, glaring at reporters who were asking questions he didn't like, but it does appear he is leaving this post. Now, there have been recent reports suggesting he has not had as much influence in the White House or been as successful as he had hoped, and he was not particularly happy with this role, but it's unclear right now whether or not that is the reason. Based on the statement that Sarah Huckabee Sanders released today, it appears, at least on the surface, that he's leaving on good terms. And again, we saw him out there with the president earlier today doing his job.
Paula Reid, Rebecca Roiphe, thank you both for joining us.